Alright, in the last lecture we have learned how to create CircularDoublyLinkedList, and we have seen how it works in practice. So in this video we are going to see how the insertion of a node works in a CircularDoublyLinkedList. So here again we have three cases for insertion. So we can insert a node at the beginning of CircularDoublyLinkedList over here, or we can insert a node at a specified location in this CircularDoublyLinkedList over here, or we can insert a node at the end of this CircularDoublyLinkedList. So it's basically similar to the double linked list, but here we have to perform extra step. So let's get started with the insertion of a first node in the double linked list. So here the first thing that we are going to do, we are going to create a blank node. So after creation a blank node, so our node is created like this. So the physical location of this node is 444 over here. So the next step is we are going to assign a value to this node over here. So let's say in our case we are assigning a value of 6 to this newly created node over here. Then we need to update the next and previous references of this node. So we know that if we are inserting a node at the beginning of CircularDoublyLinkedList, so the next reference of this node has to point to the current first node over here. So the current first node is node 1, so the physical location of this node is 001. So we are going to update the next reference of this new node to 001. Then we need to update the previous reference of this new node over here. So we know that in case of CircularDoublyLinkedList, the first node has to point to last node over here. Now the physical location of last node is 333, so we are going to update the previous reference of new node to 333. So after doing so, a backward link between new node and node 4 is created over here. Then we need to create a link between last node and this newly created node over here. So this newly created node is going to be the first node in our CircularDoublyLinkedList. So that's why last node has to point to this node over here. Now the physical location of this new node is 444. So we are going to update last node's next reference to 444, and this creates a link between last node and new node over here. Now we know that previously we had the link from last node to this node 1 over here. So by updating the next reference of node 4 to 444, the link between node 4 and node 1 gets destroyed as well. Then we need to create a backward link from node 1 to new node over here, because node 1 is going to be the second node in our CircularDoublyLinkedList, so it has to point to the first node, which will be the new node. So we are going to update the previous reference of node 1 to 444, which is the physical location of new node. So with this we are going to create a backward link between node 1 and new node over here. So if we update the previous reference of node 1 to 444, a link from node 1 to last node, which is node 4, gets destroyed. As this node is going to be the first node in our CircularDoublyLinkedList, so it's obvious that head has to point to this node. So we need to update the head reference to point to this node over here. So we are going to update the head reference to 444, which is physical location of new node, and with this we are creating a link between head and this new node, and a link between head and node 1 gets destroyed. Now with these steps we have successfully inserted a node at the beginning of CircularDoublyLinkedList. Now as you can see, this is similar to the double linked list, but in this case we have to update the previous reference of this node as well to point to last node, and last node's next reference to point to this node over here. Now with this we have completed insertion of a node at the beginning of CircularDoublyLinkedList. Now let's continue to insert a node at a specified location in CircularDoublyLinkedList. Now in this case, let's say we want to insert a new node between node 2 and node 3. So here also the first thing that we are going to do, we are going to create a new node. So this node will be the blank node, so let's say the physical location of this node is 555. Now the next step is we are going to assign a value to this node over here. Now let's say the value that we are going to assign is 20. Now the next thing that we have to do, we have to update next and previous reference of this new node. Now to update it, we need to identify in which location we are going to insert our node over here. So to do so, we have to loop through CircularDoublyLinkedList until we reach the location that we want to insert a node. Now in this case, as we said before, we are inserting a node between node 2 and node 3, so this means that we will traverse until node 2. Now when we reach node 2, we are going to stop over here, then we are going to take the next reference of node 2 and update it to new node. Now we know that the next reference of node 2 points to the next node, so this means that if we are inserting a node between these nodes over here, new node has to point to next node. So that's why we know that next reference of node 2 is 222, which is pointing to the node 3, so which is the physical location of node 3. So we are going to update the next reference of new node to 222. So with this, we will create a link between new node and node 3 over here. Now the next step is we need to update the previous reference of this new node. Now we know that if we are inserting a node between node 2 and node 3, so the previous reference of new node has to point to node 2. So we are going to set node 2 to this previous reference. So in this case, node 2's physical location is 111. So we are going to update 311 to the previous reference of new node, and this will create backward link between new node and node 2 over here. Now the next thing that we have to do, we have to create a link between node 2 and new node over here. So as we know, new node will be after node 2, so node 2's next reference has to point to new node over here. Now it points to the node 3, so we are going to update next reference of node 2 to 555, which is new node's physical location. So with this, we are creating a link between node 2 and new node, and a link between node 2 and node 3 gets destroyed. Now similarly, we have to create a backward link from node 3 to new node over here. So we are going to update node 3's previous reference to 555, which is physical location of new node, and with this we are creating a backward link between node 3 and new node, and a backward link between node 3 and node 2 gets destroyed. Now with these steps, we have successfully inserted a node at a specified location in CircularDoublyLinkedList. Now these steps are same as with double linked list. So here we are not performing any extra steps. Here just we are updating the previous and next references of related nodes over here. So these steps are same as with the double linked list. Now the last case is we are going to insert a new node at the end of CircularDoublyLinkedList. Now here also the first thing that we are going to do, we are going to create a new node and assign a value to it. Now here our node's value is 20, and the physical location of this node in the memory is 444. Now the next thing that we are going to do, we are going to update next and previous reference of this new node over here. Now we know that in case of CircularDoublyLinkedList, the last node has to point to first node. So this means that if this node is going to be our last node, so the next reference has to point to first node. Now the physical location of first node is 001. So this means that I'm going to update the next reference of new node to 001. Now with this, we are creating a link between new node and node 1 over here. Now the next step is we are going to update the previous reference of this new node. So if you are inserting a new node at the end of CircularDoublyLinkedList, so this means that previous reference of this node has to point to the current last node. So the current last node is node 4. So the physical location of node 4 is 333. So this means that we are going to update the previous reference of this new node to 333, and this creates a backward link between new node and node 4 over here. Now after doing so, the next thing that we are going to do, so this last node becomes the node before this new node. So this means that last node has to point to this new node over here. So the new node's physical location is 444. So we are going to update node 4's next reference to 444, and with this we are creating a link between node 4 and new node. Now before node 4 was pointing to node 1 over here, so by updating next reference to 444, a link between node 4 and node 1 gets destroyed. Then, as this is going to be the last node, so tail has to point to this node also over here. Now tail points to the node 4, so we are going to update the tail reference to 444, which is physical location of new node. So with this, we are going to create a link between tail and this new node, and a link between tail and node 4 gets destroyed in this case. Now finally, first node has to point to this node over here, because this node is going to be the last node. So this means that we have to update the previous reference of first node to point to this newly created node over here. So the physical location of this newly created node is 444. So we are going to update 444 to node 1's previous reference. So with this, we are creating a link from node 1 to new node over here, which is going to be the last node, and a link from node 1 to node 4, which was the previous last node, gets destroyed. Now with this, we have successfully inserted a node at the end of CircularDoublyLinkedList. So here the steps are same as with CircularDoublyLinkedList, but in this case we are doing extra steps, which are updating the next reference of this newly created node and the previous reference of node 1 over here, which is first node in our case. Now with this, we have come to the end of this lecture. So in this lecture, I have explained you how insertion works in case of CircularDoublyLinkedList in 3 cases. So basically, we can insert a node at the beginning of CircularDoublyLinkedList, then we can insert a node at a given location in CircularDoublyLinkedList, and finally, we can insert a node at the end of CircularDoublyLinkedList. Now, based on these 3 cases, let's see how the algorithm of insertion works in case of CircularDoublyLinkedList.